Good morning. We're learning about the mitzvot of the Torah, 613 mitzvot, and we're now in Parshah of Ki Teitzei on page 1052 of Art Scroll. On the bottom of the page, and we start with mitzvot of who is allowed to marry a Jewish person and who is not allowed to marry a Jewish person. The Torah says in Pasuk Bet, chapter Chav Gimel, the last word on the page, Lo yavo, next page, Lo yavo petzua daka uchrut shofcha bekhal Hashem. Someone who has crushed testicles or his organ is cut to the point that when he urinates, it does not go far but rather drips on himself, and therefore he will have hard time having children. In both of these cases, he is not allowed to marry a Jewish woman. He is allowed to marry someone who cannot have children. He is allowed to marry a convert, but he is not allowed to marry a regular Jewish woman. One of the reasons is because the main goal of creation of the world is to fill the world, right? To produce children, to produce good children, and to populate the world with servants of Hashem. And if a man cannot have children, then he is not fulfilling the purpose of the world. And if he's going to marry a woman who can have children, but because he cannot have children, she will also not have children, so he's stopping someone, or in this case a woman, from fulfilling her role in the world. So we write here in English, a man whose reproductive organs were damaged is either called a sterile man, or there is a, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, it's spelled EUNUCH. In the olden days, it was popular for ministers of a king to be castrated.
Oh, eunuch.
Eunuch? Yeah.
Eunuch.
The reason why they were castrated was because the king was worried for his wives, because these ministers were in a palace all the time, and the king was not in the palace all the time. He was fighting in a war, on a hunting trip, other vacations, and he was worried what's going to be with his wives if there are these minister men around. So he would castrate all his ministers. For a Jewish person, is not allowed to do that. Even for a high position to be a minister, you're not allowed to do it for yourself. We even learned about a mitzvah that we're not allowed to do it to our animals. If you have an animal that you want to become fat, by non-Jews, it's common to castrate such an animal. And then, because it doesn't waste its energy for the seed, it becomes fat. You're not allowed to do this to our animals. The Jewish farmer's not allowed to castrate his animals. So we see how far it goes. Not only we care that we should have children, we care that even our animals should be natural and they should reproduce. So we write here, let's write this word. A castrated man may not marry a Jewish woman.
So that's red, right?
It's red, it's a negative commandment.
That's only for a convert, or even
Jew?
a Jew?
No, a Jew
cannot get married.
Yes, number one, you're not allowed to castrate yourself, or not allowed to drink medicine that's going to make you unable to have children. And number two, if a person is like that, he's not allowed to get married to a Jewish woman.
What if he's married and then he had an accident?
If he's married and then he had an accident, it's okay.
Wait, mamzer, what does it mean, mamzer? A mamzer shall not enter.
Yeah, that's the next one. The next negative commandment is in Pasuk Gimel, Lo yavo mamzer bikhal Hashem. A mamzer may not enter into the congregation of Hashem, which means a mamzer is not allowed to marry a Jew. Whether the mamzer is a man, he's not allowed to marry a Jewish woman, or mamzeret, a girl mamzer, she's not allowed to marry a Jewish man. Now, what is a mamzer? Mamzer is a baby that is born from forbidden relationship. Only from a forbidden relationship that has a punishment of death or karet. Which means, if there is just a negative commandment, then the baby is not mamzer. For example, if a married woman has relations with another man other than her husband and she has a child from him, since this is punishable by death, the baby is mamzer. And this baby is not allowed to marry another Jew. He is allowed to marry a convert or another mamzer. If a woman marries her brother, that the baby is going to be a mamzer. If an aunt is going to marry a nephew, that's going to be a mamzer. However, if man has relations with a woman who is nida, even though, that's an exception, even though nida is punishable by karet, the relationship with nida. However, the baby that's born from a nida union is still kosher Jew, and he is allowed to marry other Jews.
And if a man has a baby, say, if he's married and he has a child with another woman, because that woman, let's say, is unmarried.
If a man is married but he has a relationship with a woman who is not married, it's not allowed, but the child is not going to be mamzer. Because a man is allowed to marry, according to the Torah, more than one woman, but a woman is not allowed to marry more than one man. Or another example, if a Kohen marries a divorced woman, he's not allowed, but the child is not going to be mamzer, because that is not punishable by death or by karet, rather it's a negative commandment. So Kohen who marries a divorcee, his child is not going to be Kohen anymore, but he's not going to be mamzer either. So he will be able to marry a Jew, but he will not be able to marry a Kohen. For example, if a girl is born from a marriage of Kohen with a divorcee, this girl will not be able to marry a Kohen.
Why not?
Because she lost her status as being a Kohenet, right, a daughter of a Kohen. Such a person is called halal. Halal means empty, means that something was there and it was emptied out. It lost its kedusha, its holiness, and it's even worse than not having it in the first place. Which means a Jew who didn't have this holiness of a Kohen, he stays a Jew and he's allowed to marry a Kohen. But a Kohen who lost his kehuna, he becomes even lower than a Jew. And so they're not allowed to marry a Kohen.
What about a ger?
A ger also. A convert is not allowed to marry a Kohen.
Our children, like children of a ger?
Children of convert are allowed to marry Kohen if one of the parents was not a convert. For example, if a convert marries a Jewish woman, then their children are going to be fully normal Jews. But if two converts get married, then their children have the status of convert also.
So then the third generation can marry if this.
Yeah, there must be one regular Jew. Yeah, in the marriage.
So if the child marries also a convert, then their child also cannot marry.
Right. Right, there must be a Jew.
It's not punishable by death penalty, right?
For
let's say, convert marries a Kohen.
Right, convert marrying a Kohen is not allowed, but if they do get married, it's not punishable by
So
death
their
or
kids
karet.
are still Jews.
So their kids are Jewish, right? But they cannot marry a Kohen. And so we write that mamzer is not allowed to marry a Jew. That's the negative commandment. The pasuk continues, Gam dor asiri, even in 10th generation, we don't highlight it, but the pasuk says, even in the 10th generation, he's not allowed to enter the congregation of Hashem, which means even a child of a mamzer stays mamzer. If mamzer goes against the law and he marries a Jew, the child is going to be mamzer anyway. Or if a mamzer doesn't go against the law and he marries a convert, the child is going to be mamzer also. Or if the mamzer marries another mamzer, then for sure the child is going to be mamzer, and this continues forever.
Wait, but if mamzer marries a kosher girl, the child is mamzer?
Is mamzer, yes. Even if mamzer marries a regular Jew, the child is still mamzer. First of all, it's not allowed. Mamzer is not allowed to marry a regular Jew. But even if they do, the child is still mamzer, because it says Gam dor asiri.
Because it's happening right now, these things.
It's happening, unfortunately, and we have to be aware of it.
People think they're even Kohanim like this, you know?
Yeah, if it's Kohen, he's not Kohen anymore.
Like I know a Kohen who married a Russian woman, and his son, is he mamzer now?
Russian
No,
woman means
mamzer-
what?
No, mamzer has nothing to do with this.
Russian woman means
Like
not
a Russian
Jewish.
Christian.
Right, so that his child is a goy.
Is that a mamzer?
No,
It's not
mamzer.
mamzer.
If it's a
Mamzer is
woman
if the woman was married.
a child out of
But then, okay,
Red
so,
locks.
but then this kid is still not a, he's not a Jew.
He's
no?
a goy completely.
Then
if he
marries
converts-
a Jew. Let's say
No,
he
if he
doesn't
marries
convert.
a Jewish woman,
Right.
then
the child
his-
is Jewish.
the child is going to be Jewish because of the Jewish woman,
Right.
not because of him.
Okay, so it's, thank God.
Unfortunately,
Not a
it shouldn't be
mamzer, something
such cases. It's not out of wedlock, because out of wedlock for man is not a mamzer.
yeah.
Right, but
Yeah.
rather in English it's called adultery. Adultery meaning a married woman. In English it also includes a married man, but in Judaism,
So if two people are not married and they conceive a child and a child is being born, what do we call it? It's not
It-
mamzer?
if two people are not married, it's called out of wedlock, but it's not mamzer. It doesn't. The child that was born outside of marriage does not have the holiness, the kedusha of a child within a marriage, but he's not a mamzer. He's still a kosher Jew. Just like a child who was born from a nida union, he has some blemish on his soul that could be fixed if he learns Torah, but he's not a mamzer. The next commandment, negative commandment, is in Pasuk Dalet. Lo yavo Amoni uMoavi b'kal Hashem. Ammonite and Moabite, men from Ammon and men from Moab, are not allowed to enter the congregation of Hashem, which means Ammonite and Moabite may never marry a Jewess. It only applies to men. So men from Ammon and Moab are not allowed to marry a Jewish woman. And then the pasuk continues, Gam dora siri lo yavo lahem b'kal Hashem ad olam. Even until 10th generation, and even forever, not allowed to marry a Jewish woman. Which means we're not talking about a goy. We're talking about an Ammon man who becomes a convert. He becomes Jewish. He keeps all the mitzvot. He learns Torah, but he is not allowed to marry a Jewish woman. So now, okay, he's allowed to marry a convert, or he's allowed to marry a mamzer. Let's say he marries another convert, another Ammonite, or another convert from another nation. His children will still not be able to marry a Jew, and their children also will not be able to marry a Jew. As long as there is one Ammon man in the lineage, the children are not allowed to marry regular Jews. They are allowed to marry converts.
Who are these nowadays?
And nowadays we don't know, because the nations were mixed up. Now, any nation that claims that they come from that particular land or nation, we don't believe them. An example of that is Egypt. Egyptians now are not the real Egyptians, they're Arabs that just happen to live in Egypt, but not the original Egyptians. The Greeks, now, if someone comes and says, I'm from Greece, he's not a Greek, he's just some people who happen to live in Greece, in a land of Greece, but the ancient Greeks are no longer there. So too with the lands of Ammon and Moab, we don't know. So right now this does not apply because we don't have these nations anymore. But if somehow we would trace the lineage and find out that he really is from Ammon and Moab, it would be forbidden. For a woman from Ammon and Moab, it is permitted because it uses masculine, but not only that, it uses masculine because you could say maybe just a common thing. It says it adds in the next pasuk a reason why they're not allowed to marry. Al devar, because of the matter, asher lo kidmu etchem balechem uvamayim, because they did not greet you with bread and water. B'derech b'tzetechem mitzrayim, on the way when you were coming out of Egypt. V'asher sachar alechet Bilam ben Beor, and because he hired against you Bilam son of Beor, mipetor amaram naharayim lekaleleka, to curse you. So the sages derive from this. This is a Torah law. The sages just explain the Torah law that since the men of Ammon and Moab were guilty for not greeting the Jewish people, because it's a man's job to greet guests or travelers, it's not proper for a woman to go out of her house and greet travelers. Therefore, women are not guilty of this sin, and therefore the prohibition of not marrying them only applies to men, because the man showed that they have a bad character. Women did not show that, and in fact, the story of Ruth was from Moab, and she married Boaz, and David Amalek came from her. And not only that, one of the a child of Shlomo Amalek was born from an Ammonite woman, Naamah HaAmmonit. Shlomo Amalek, I think, married a woman from Ammon, and his son Rehavam became the next king after Shlomo. So we see that both David and his grandson came from Moab and Ammon, because the women of Moab and Ammon are good, just the men are not.
Does that mean that other nations did provide water and bread to Jews when they were in the desert for 4 years?
Could be, yes. Could be. It says that Edom, they came out against the Jewish people with war, because Jewish people wanted to pass through their land, and they did not let. But at least there was some response. It's better someone comes out from his house and says, don't come here, I don't let, than someone who just ignores you. That's one reason. Number two was that Edom and other nations that were scared of the Jews and they wanted to fight the Jews, they had a reason, because they suspected that the Jewish people will conquer their land. But Ammon and Moab did not suspect that, because Hashem specifically said to the Jewish people that you're not allowed to take the land of Ammon and take the land of Moab. You have to leave them alone in peace. Because it says, I gave these lands to the children of Lot. Ammon and Moab are the two children of Lot. And so they knew that the Jewish people are not planning to take their land. So we're friendly. Why not help us?
Wasn't it also the nation that gave Jewish people salty fish and then
This was Ishmaelim.
Ishmaelim. Not Ammon and Moab.
What's the reason why they didn't want to give the water? Like what? What's the logic?
Well, because
If they know they're not going to be we're not going to take care
Bad
of them.
character.
But is there a reason why they have this?
No
bad
reason.
character?
If there was a reason, they wouldn't be punished. Like other nations that fought against us, it's okay, we can marry them. Egyptians, we're going to speak about it. Egyptians were allowed to marry. Why? Even though they oppressed us and they killed us, we're allowed to marry them. Because they had a reason for oppressing us. They were scared of us. Ammon and Moab were not. They just, out of bad character, they didn't care for another human being. So this mitzvah is an Ammonite convert or a Moabite convert may not marry a Jewish woman.
In this case, the verse adds ad olam, forever.
Ad olam.
In the Mamzer, it doesn't
Right.
say ad
It's
olam.
possible that it just comes to explain to you that when the Torah says ad dor asiri, until the 10th generation, does not mean that on 11th generation you can. It means ad olam, which means anytime you see a dor asiri, it means ad olam.
So the same as in Ammon and Moab, ad olam,
Ad
Dor Asiri is
olam.
ad olam. In case of Mamzer, it's
Mamzer
also
also ad olam.
even though it doesn't say it.
Yes. Now in Pasuk Zayin, we have another negative commandment. Lo tidrosh shalomam v'tovatam. Do not seek their peace and their good, their welfare. Which means have nothing to do with Ammon and Moab. They're so bad that not only they're not allowed to marry your women, even after conversion, but even if they live separately, don't offer them peace. Don't make peace treaties with them. And don't do business dealings with them that are good for both of you. Just ignore them completely.
The Ammonite and Moabite.
Ammonite and Moabite. But the mitzvah is that when you go to war against other nations, you must first offer them peace in exchange for their paying taxes. They will open their gates, you take control of their government, they have autonomy, but they have to pay you taxes. However, if you happen to go to war against Ammon and Moab, you are not supposed to offer them peace.
So what we're right.
Don't offer peace to Ammon and Moab when going against them to war.
So does it mean like to just destroy them or?
No, it does not mean destroy. We're not supposed to bother them. But if it happens that they bother us and we start fighting against them, we don't, and let's say we start winning and they hide in their city, with all of the other cities, we're supposed to first send them a message. Open up, we're not going to kill you, just pay taxes, be under our control, and everything's going to be fine. To them, we're not supposed to.
We're just going with a war.
Yeah, and we kill them. Meaning, we're not allowed to start the war, but if they start the war against us, we fight them and we don't offer them peace anymore.
Because they're treacherous, basically, right?
Could be.
They don't trust their decisions.
And let's just read the note 7 on page 1055. You shall not seek their peace or welfare. Israel had been forbidden to conquer the ancestral inheritance, means the land of these two descendants of Lot. But if a war were to occur, the Jews were now freed from the general obligation to offer peace or to show any special mercy. Thus, even though Abraham had loved Lot and gone out of his way to help him, and Israel was still forbidden to take away the inheritance of Lot's offspring, the disgraceful behavior of Ammon and Moab had broken those old bonds of brotherhood. Now we continue with laws of forbidden marriages in Pasuk Chet, and it says, Lo teta'ev adomi. Do not reject an Edomite, which means if a man from Edom, a descendant of Esav, converts, do not reject him from marriage. Before we write a mitzvah, let's see the parameters of it. The Torah explains why, so we just highlight 3 words. Lo tetaev el adomi. Ki achichahu, because he is your brother, meaning Yaakov and Esav were 2 brothers. Lo tetaev mitzri, don't reject Egyptian. Ki ger hayita b'artzo, so we also highlight only 3 words. Lo tetaev mitzri, don't reject an Egyptian. And again the Torah gives us a reason why. Ki ger hayita v'artzo, because you were strangers, you lived in his land. So what are the parameters of it? When are we allowed to marry them? Banim asher yevaldu lahem dor shelishi. Only the children that are going to be born in a 3rd generation of children. Yavo lahem, they may come in b'kal Hashem, into the congregation of Hashem. So a convert from Edom or convert from Egypt are not allowed to marry Jews. Their children are also not allowed to marry Jews. Only in the 3rd generation they are allowed.
Does it mean that each generation should convert again?
No, once they convert, they're Jewish. But in the 1st generation, they should marry each other or other converts. 2nd generation also.
Or mamzer.
Well, yeah, mamzer is not recommended.
Gonna stay mamzer.
Right. If in the 3rd generation they're still kosher, then a Jew is allowed to marry them. So here we write, don't distance or don't reject offspring of Esav from marrying Jews more past 3rd generation.
And
Don't
write the same thing for
yeah. Don't reject offspring of Esav from marrying Jews past 3rd generation. And then the next mitzvah is don't reject offspring of Egyptians from marrying Jews past 3rd generation.
So if a child of Edom or of Mitzrayim, a 3rd or 4th generation, comes in and he likes a woman and he wants to marry her, but she does not like him, does she transgresses this mitzvah because she is not marrying him?
No.
Or you mean not rejecting
The
because
Beis Din,
the fact that they are...
right, the court is not supposed to stop him. Each individual, if they don't want to get married, they don't have to.
So don't reject them because of the fact that they are Edomi or...
They should not have a status of someone who is not allowed to marry a Jewish woman. If they just don't find shidduch, then that's not a problem. Okay. Now, we finished talking about forbidden marriages. Now we talk about sanctity of Jewish camp. And this corresponds to what we spoke about in halakha this morning, about going to the bathroom. That the Jewish people are holy so much that they even have rules of holiness in the bathroom. Here in Pasuk Yud Aleph, Torah discusses that if a man has seminal emission at night, he becomes impure. Such a man is not allowed to enter the camp of Levites in the desert or in Yerushalayim, Har Habayit. First there is the city of Yerushalayim, then there is the Temple Mount, and then in the middle of the Temple Mount there is the temple itself. So temple itself is called Machane Shechina, as the camp of Hashem's presence. There, for sure, such a person not allowed to enter. But even the Temple Mount, he's not allowed to enter either. The area around the temple. And this applies to all the other Tme'im. All the people who are Tameh, this applies. So we mark Lo Yavo El Toch HaMachaneh, the last 5 words of the Pasuk. Yud Aleph. It's the second to the last line. Lo Yavo El Toch HaMachaneh. He's not allowed to enter the camp. Which camp? The camp where Shekhinah and the tabernacle was, the camp of Levim. And we write, an impure person may not enter the Levite camp, which corresponds to the Temple Mount. Or you can say, without corresponds, and Temple Mount. And it explains that he should go to the mikveh that day, and then in the evening he will become pure. And only then he is allowed to go into the Temple Mount.
In the middle of the pasuk where it says "Vayatzal mechutz lemachaneh," does it also mean he should come out from the?
Yeah, if he was inside when it happened, he should exit.
Levirate.
Yeah, let's say he was in a Levite camp and he became impure there, he must come out.
But he can stay in the rest of the camp of the Jewish.
Yes.
It's not like the Metzorah.
It's not like Metzorah who must exit completely outside of the city.
But does he, like in today's world, does that mean like you shouldn't go to synagogue and pray if you have internal emission? You should go to mikveh first or take a shower first?
That's ideal, right? But according to the Torah, as long as you're clean, let's say you washed yourself, you're allowed to pray, you're allowed to learn Torah and visit the synagogue. The sages made a rabbinic decree that someone who has a similar mission, or someone who has relations with his wife, he should not learn Torah, pray, or go to the synagogue until he goes to mikveh. But that decree was cancelled later because it was too hard for people. So some people still follow that. They're careful to go to mikveh whenever they need to. But it's not required.
If you take a shower, it's not.
You take a shower, or even if you just remove all traces of semen from yourself, it's enough. Now on the next page, 1056, we have a positive commandment. First words on the page. V'yad tihye lecha michutz lemachaneh. You must have a place outside of the camp. We mark this in green. V'yatzata shama chutz. And that is where you must go out. Which means, if you need to go to the bathroom, don't go to the bathroom in the middle of the street or even on the side of the street or on the side of your house. Rather, make a set place and always go to the bathroom in the same place. Don't go in the bathroom one time here, one time there, because that would defile the whole camp. And we know that if there is smell or you see excrement, you're not allowed to learn Torah, you're not allowed to pray. So the Jewish camp has to be holy. We're supposed to be able to learn Torah at all times, think about Torah. And if there is excrement all over the place, that would stop us from learning Torah and praying. So this is a positive commandment. Prepare a place for your bodily needs. This is the positive commandment.
Yad over here means a place.
The word yad means place, just like aliyad.
Aliyad.
Aliyad means near that place, right? Next to. Yad means a place.
But it's not commonly used.
It's not commonly used, but that's what it means in the Torah.
So if you're sitting in the park and you're learning, and there's like somebody's walking their dog and just starts doing her stuff there, you cannot learn there anymore?
Yeah.
How far away should you walk away from that
You
place?
shouldn't see it, and you shouldn't smell it. different animals have different degree of smell, meaning some animals, their excrement smells a lot, some animals doesn't. So you have to know each particular animal if it smells or not. But if you feel that you feel the smell, then you're not allowed.
But if you saw somebody from a distance, let's say.
Yeah, as long as you're not looking at it, if you turn around, then it's fine. But that's another problem. When you, let's say, walking and you just wanna say psukim or you wanna start praying tehillim, you have to be careful that you're not passing any excrement. And I know that in Uzbekistan, I've witnessed a few times when non-Jews, they went to the bathroom right in the middle of the street. It was normal for them. They would just go on the side where the grass is, just go to the bathroom, get up and continue walking. So we're not allowed to do that. We have to have a set place for the bathroom.
What if a child, like let's say you're with your child and he wants to really...
Yeah, if a child also not supposed to do it in the middle of the street, you have to go on the side where there are no people. First of all, they shouldn't see you doing it, and they shouldn't see it after it's done. Now, the next mitzvah explains to you what do you do after you go to the bathroom. And that is Pasuk Yudalet. Ve'yated tihiyeh lecha al azenecha. And you must have, in this case it means a shovel, a small shovel, together with your other tools or your weapons. And this is a mitzvah that, and then it explains. We just mark these words in green, it's a positive commandment. And the Pasuk explains why do you need a shovel? To carry with you at all times. Va'aya b'shivtecha chutz, and it will be that when you sit down outside, meaning to go to the bathroom, v'chafarta va, you must dig with this shovel, and then go to the bathroom, and then v'shavta, and then turn around, v'chisita tzatecha, and cover your excrement. Meaning, not only you're supposed to have a set place where you go to the bathroom, but even then, don't go just in open field. First, dig a hole, go to the bathroom, and then you must cover the hole.
That's what cats do, right?
That's what
Cats and
cats
dogs.
do.
Dogs don't, but cats do.
Yeah, dogs pretend to do it, but cats really do it. So this is a mitzvah. Prepare a shovel to dig in a place of bathroom and cover the excrement. This is the mitzvah, the positive commandment. Prepare a shovel to dig in a place of bathroom and to cover your excrement. To cover the excrement. Now the Torah explains why we need to keep our camp clean. Ki, because Hashem Elokecha mithalech b'kerev machanecha. Hashem, your God, walks in the midst of your camp. Lehatzilcha, to save you, to protect you. V'latet oivecha lifanecha, and to place your enemy before you. V'haya machanecha kadosh, your camp must be holy. Not only inside of our house has to be holy, even our streets have to be holy. V'lo yir'eh v'cha ervat davar, and it should not be visible among you anything. They translate shameful. Erva means naked or shame. There should not be visible any nakedness or any shame among you. V'shav me'acharecha, because then Hashem will turn away from you. We can stop over here for today with mitzvot, and we will continue with Hashem next week with more negative commandments on the same